Billions is a Showtime drama series that was created by Brian Koppelman, David Levien, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. In early seasons, the conflict between Charles "Chuck" Rhodes Jr. and Robert "Bobby" Axelrod was the center of the storyline. The actor who plays Axe, Damian Lewis, leaves the role, and Mike Prince, a new billionaire, takes his place as Chuck's main foe. Axe makes a comeback in the 7th and final season as Prince launches his presidential campaign, and Chuck assumes his former role as U.S. Attorney. This week's episode of Billions was another conventional one. No Axe, financial bras breaking the law, but at least Hurricane Rosie, and its two primary plot lines are beginning to come together. Following his discovery that the millionaire is connected to a Taiwanese businessman whose son operates in NFT fraud, Chuck attempts to indict Mike Prince, bringing the two men back into each other's sphere of influence. So the entire investigation into the phony Super PAC from last week has been put on hold, or what? Wags, meanwhile, goes wild and sabotages a hurricane category, making Prince appear to be an insurance scammer without having a clear plan to take Prince out from within. Wags' fingerprints are all over this particular scheme, which is an issue because it puts Wags in a difficult position at MPC. The last thing Wendy wants is to lose her strongest ally, so she corrects him before they reassemble. But Hurricane Rosie does provide us a chance to consider more of what's going on in the background of these main stage plot lines. Well, that plus numerous allusions to Grosse Pointe Blank. As an illustration, I was much more moved by the subplot with the scooter conductor than I was by Chuck's efforts to apprehend Prince for helping a wanted man around the world. Scooter will lead the New York Philharmonic under Prince's direction, and Leonard Bernstein no less. This is a huge matter because Scooter long ago gave up his dreams of becoming a conductor, as we already know from the previous season. The guest conductor role is ultimately scrapped due to Prince's involvement in the global crisis, and Bradford Luke's opinion that Prince's association with posh orchestral music will significantly deter voters. Scooter's hopes are once more dashed because he must constantly sacrifice himself for Mike Prince. But with this one, I'm still left wondering why. Scooter has consented to a life sentence as a minion in exchange for what Prince has promised him. For instance, once the conductor offer is withdrawn, a broken Scooter feeds Prince this cringe. "You said you had a fantastic day today." Vanna followed suit. Although we don't learn enough about Scooter's past to really comprehend his mindset, I do feel terrible for him. Will this most recent offering allow Wendy and Wags to convince him to side with them? To be fair, I did believe that the orchestral music was an elitist subplot, was a fantastic criticism on the assume all Americans are stupid mindset that most politicians believe they must adopt in order to win elections. I'm becoming less convinced about Dr. Mayer's genuine motives. For the sake of assisting Wendy in figuring out how to eliminate Mike Prince, has Wendy's new psychiatrist discharged all of her Prince Cap patients? That doesn't make her seem too wonderful to be true. Rather, it raises serious red flags, particularly when she asks Wendy to begin listing the MPC employees she knows she will offend, like Bradford Luke, her current office foe. Something about this doesn't feel right. However, I've come to see everything that occurs on Billions with skepticism. However, I do think that Dr. Mayer's accommodating nature raises a question. She must be providing feedback to someone. This week's Chuck Prince plot develops and comes to a traditional conclusion, with both Chuck and Prince believing they have won, despite the fact that they have both ended up back where they started. Chuck has to move heaven and earth to bring the plane back into American territory after learning that the aforementioned NFT fraudster took a trip on one of Prince's jets back to Taipei. To be fair, Prince had no idea the jet was for the son of his Taiwanese mogul friend, but he does know Chuck is behind the most recent arrest warrant, so he makes an effort to keep the plane in the air as long as he can. In the end, Prince grants Chuck his request, of course, only under his terms. In exchange for exposing the scammer's son, he commands the plane to land back in New York and makes a number of outlandish promises to Mogul Daddy. Prince guarantees Mogul Daddy that scammer's son will be released from prison and granted a full pardon as soon as he becomes president. He also guarantees Mogul Daddy excellent Taiwan, U.S. ties, and specific trade safeguards worth billions to Mogul Daddy directly to sweeten the deal. He gets a look from Bradford Luke that says, "Please, don't do that, sir." At the airport, Prince's appearance and scammer's son's surrender overshadow Chuck's large-scale arrest. In his obedient address, Prince emphasizes the need of abiding by the law and expressly thanks Chuck for letting him know that his plane had been taken under false pretenses. Chuck, however, is unconcerned about the positive publicity Prince will receive as a result of this episode, because Prince is aware that the authorities are keeping a watch on him. Chuck remarks, "Hard to march towards the presidency when you're constantly looking over your shoulder." Chuck Rhodes is a very funny man who knew. I'm always up for more Wagsian mischief, but the hurricane plot has probably been put on hold for the time being following this episode. Taylor and Philip show up to put an end to the hurricane betting, the spelling of Rosie, if it reaches Category 5, as the MPC team eagerly watches Hurricane Rosie wreak havoc along the American South. Because Mike Prince owns several $1 billion worth of disaster bonds issued by one of the major insurance companies in the South. If this storm is classified as a Category 5, it will be costly for everyone. Fortunately, the storm is classified as a Category 4 storm thanks to Wags' conversation with Al Roker, who provided some hurricane intelligence and his subsequent payment to the hurricane grader. The issue is that Mike Prince now has the appearance of a Wall Street scammer. That's what happens when real Wall Street con artists like Michael Wagner remain on staff, dude. Thousands of homes have been destroyed throughout the South, but Prince managed to escape this climate change catastrophe with his stock portfolio unharmed. The optics are terrible, especially for a candidate for president, and an unrepentant Wags would be in serious trouble. We now know that Wags intended for this to occur, and the only reason she is still employed by MPC is because of Wendy's quick thinking and Prince's confidence in her. Because she can't risk losing her finest ally, she pressures Prince to accept responsibility for his actions and persuades Wags to take it. Prince follows with the standard picture quick fix, enables the Indiana National Guard to provide assistance to those most affected by the hurricane. Bradford then counsels him to quickly reduce his staff, warning that failing to do so could result in international crisis and possible insurance fraud becoming routine. Wendy seeks insight from her nightly gross point-blank screenings as Prince continues to cut his troops. She sees herself as being just like John Cusack's professional assassin, and her biggest concern is that a clean kill can turn very messy. Wendy Key-Blank is fully aware of the challenging and chaotic circumstances she and Wags, whom she corners later that night, will face. Okay, good, simple and well-planned, are tedious. The fact that Wendy is one of the few people Wags will listen to apart from hacks, and that it doesn't take much to convince Wags to accept her conditions, to work with her, is still one of my favorite things about the character. It seems like a terrific beginning, but if these two are serious about unseating Mike Prince, they will need a lot more supporters. Do you anticipate anyone else joining the Rebel Alliance soon? The self-awareness of Billions is almost as entertaining as its frequent pop culture allusions. Having treated so many Prince cappers, Dr. Mayer tells Wendy, "I have gotten to revisit so many fine films." If you're let down by Al Roker's underwhelming cameo, you can always watch this historic Hurricane Wilma footage, which probably served as the inspiration for the episode's own Weatherman vs. the Wind scene. Not to mention Roker's entertaining Sharknado 2 appearance.